Hi, I'm Everett. Welcome back to the shop. This time it isn't a machining video, it's a mechanical video. A buddy of mine gave me a call a little while ago asking if I could help him out. His son's Santa Fe was having a bit of a knocking noise under the hood, and every now and then a bit of a squeaking noise, and just something just wasn't right. And we looked into it, and it turns out that the crankshaft pulley, which is also the harmonic balancer on those engines, had come apart, and the outer ring had come completely off. So anyway, we had to replace it. This is just the procedure I went through to change it. I had to use a couple homemade setups as far as one sketchy little tool. You'll see, again, there are other ways of doing things, but this is how I solved this problem here at this time. Otherwise, yeah, it's a 2007 Santa Fe with the V6, and hope you find it interesting or perhaps useful if you have to do one. I'm hoping the lighting's reasonably decent for you to be able to see it on your screen. The issue is that the harmonic balancer or vibration dampener or whatever you want to call it, the crank pulley on this particular model, it's the same part, has spit the outer ring. Here's a picture of what it's supposed to look like new. That's the new one. And then, but if you look, for example, right there, that's the rubber part. The outer steel ring is gone. There are grooves worn in right about there from where the belt's riding, even though the belt's kind of loose. So we have to replace that bit. I mean, even with, you can see the belt's kind of sloppy there, it still had a bit of power steering and the alternator was still sort of charging. So he was able to drive it over here and so I could work on it. So that's what we're doing, is we're changing that piece. We'll be changing the front main crankshaft seal while we're in there, just because we're in there and the car's got 260 some odd thousand kilometers on it. I don't trust the old seal to seal to the new dampener properly. First thing to do is got to jack up the vehicle. I've got it jacked up, but I've also got a jack stand further in on the subframe rail, and this side tire comes off. The next step is removal of this splash shield. There are 4 10mm headed bolts holding it in. Just have to wiggle that out the side. So here you can get a better idea of what happened. See, here's the center hub area that bolts on the crankshaft, and here's that rubber ring I was telling you about, and the belt is riding right in the rubber ring. That's what it's supposed to look like. This whole outer ring is gone. So next step is we're going to hit this with an impact wrench and see if it'll come off. It's a 22mm socket. Hey, nice. All right. And nicely enough, I don't even need a puller to get it off. We may as well take advantage of this opportunity, not having to use the tensioner to remove the belt. And remove the belt. We're replacing the belt while we're at it, so I can just let that hang there for the moment. It won't be in the way. That slides out. There we go. Now, to avoid messing up this bore and the lip on the end of it here, for stuff like this I like to use a small piece of metal, just in sort of to pry against. Get a decent angle here. Use the seal pick to get up underneath the edge of that old seal. And then pull. So that way we don't wind up with any scarring. That way we have no scarring on the end here. I mean, it still can be pulled even if you're pulling on the edge of this, but it's going to leave a little ding or a little mark in it, and sometimes those marks can be pretty deep. Try to have some level of professionalism. Now here's the original equipment one. This is the one we're putting in. They're the same diameters and same sizes, whatever. Functionally, they are the same. One's just from a different manufacturer. What we'll do is just use the small tapping stick to get it started in the bore. I know on this style, with the steel all the way around the outside versus this style with the rubber on the outside, some guys like to put anaerobic sealer around the outside of this. that's what the red stuff is, so we don't really need it. As long as your bore is in decent shape, you don't really need it. So now, just using a 3/4 inch socket and a larger tapping stick, to drive it home. My apologies if that's getting really loud in the speakers as I'm tapping. And yeah, we're seated all the way around. Excellent. One thing I did was I put a very thin coat of oil on the inner seal there, just so that when it starts up it's not running dry. And we line up our keyway on the balancer. Ow, get my finger up from behind it. Slides on like that. Here's our crank pulley bolt. Back again. Spin him into place. And then lightly do it up with the impact, because it's actually got a torque rating of, or torque spec of 225 pound-foot. Now, some of you may have seen this tool I was using on a couple of my other videos for holding water pump pulleys and such. This guy here, what I've done is it's got two big holes, one there and one there going through the beam. I just put a couple nuts on. These bigger nuts are just spacers. So what I've done with this tool is I've got the other end up top wedged against the motor mount, and the way that it's set up here, yes, it looks like it's a little bit of an angle, but both of the ends of the bolts are wedged against the spokes in the dampener. So now all we need to do is get on here with the socket and give it 220 foot-pounds. We can put the belt on and we're done this part. So this is how we're going to get our 220 foot-pounds. So got the crankshaft pulley here, got the crankshaft locked. There we go. So yeah, it's a bit of a grunt, but this is about the safest way I can think of doing it. I don't know if Hyundai has a special tool for doing that, but really, as long as you have the spokes held and on the center hub area held solidly against something on the frame or the engine, you can just use a torque wrench and tighten it up. I just finished peeling the old belt off of the remaining pulleys. Now it's just time to put the new belt in. For that, we're going to have to get onto the belt tensioner, and if you look inside here, then in order to string your new one around all your pulleys, and then that there is your tensioner right there. That's what you have to grab onto with a wrench to move the tensioner in order to get some slack to get the belt on it. Before I slide the belt on, what I'll do is I'll put up a picture of a diagram of the belt routing on these things, just in case you need, or in case you forgot, because it's very easy to forget when you slip the belt off. I can't tell you how many times I've done it, even just as a mechanic on vehicles I knew, just because you get busy doing stuff. Okay, please forgive me if it's a little bit hard to see in here. I tried to get the best camera angle I could. It's just kind of difficult trying to get the camera in there. Alright, so I have it routed on the pulleys up above. It comes from the power steering to the tensioner here. We'll wrap it around to start on the crank pulley. Make sure our air conditioning compressor, it's lined up because it seems to want to pop off. As far as I know, the rest upstairs should still be good. And then I have a breaker bar or flex handle, whatever you want to call, attached to a long extension going onto that 19mm hex on the tensioner I was showing you. So according to that, we have it on. I'm going to double check up top. And we are in Water pump, alternator, power steering. We are golden. And the tire goes on. Finally, according to the Hyundai service manual, the lug nuts are to be torqued to 80 foot-pounds. Well, 65 to 80, but I'll lean toward 80. There we are. Well, again, it's a bit of a trick getting light in there, but she's all back together. I gave the car a quick oil change while I was here because the fella wanted it. Here we go, moment of truth. There we go, running nice and true, nice and smooth. That's what we're looking for. So I figured just have one quick closer last look at the old pulley. You can see where this is actually rubber. That's where the belt was rubbing in and actually wore new grooves into this. I'm not sure exactly how long he drove it after the outer ring came off, but I'm surprised it kept going. The alternator was still partially charging and he still had partial power steering. So crazy. But I'm glad I changed the front crankshaft oil seal. If you can look up really close there, you can actually see and I can feel grooves in this. So that seal was pretty much getting close to done anyway. So yeah, my buddy will be happy to get his car back. So not a huge repair job by any stretch, but I hope you found it at least interesting or perhaps useful if you have to wind up doing one yourself. The procedure's fairly similar for a lot of the import engines. One other thing to note is that we just had our 2,000 subscriber draw. I'll be getting the package off in the mail as soon as I get the address of the fellow who won it. And just for what it's worth, at 3,000 subscribers, if I make it to 3, we'll see, I'll have another draw. So if you want to join the list of subscribers, that'd be cool. But if not, that's fine too. Otherwise, yeah, come on back and check it out every now and then. And when we reach 3, we'll open it up. I just want to say thanks to everybody. And thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I'll see y'all next time.